underneath that, what do you feel is the core brokenness or thing that needs to be healed in men to begin to see a change in how we're showing up in the world related to our sexuality?
Mm-hmm. So the first place that my mind goes is the topic of trauma. So trauma comes from the Greek word meaning wound. And so whereas kind of a scar might reveal an external wound, a lot of our emotional pain is kind of an internal scarring. And so one of the leading trauma therapists in the world has recently said that he does not believe that trauma is just something difficult that happened to us, but far more, trauma is what happens inside of us in the absence of an empathetic witness. So it's not just something that's difficult, but it's any experience that we go through that did not have an empathetic witness of someone actually seeing some of the pain and heartache that we will inevitably go through in life. And so the consequences of trauma are typically threefold. The first is that there's going to be some level of unaddressed pain. The second would be the need to numb that pain. And then the third is this inevitable sense of isolation. So a lot of men, especially as kids, did not have an empathetic witness to a lot of what they are going through. So I think of, middle school is often like a prototype of hell. I know my nickname was Donut in middle school. Just a lot of shaming, a lot of humiliation that I had been through in school. And I don't think that I'm unique in that way. So when men have all of this unaddressed pain, the need to numb that pain is going to be able to take over. And so that could be early on in adolescence, that could be substances, that could be porn, something to be able to provide something of a reprieve from that, very deeply painful experience. But then the more that you begin to numb out to a particular substance or behavior, that's inevitably going to create that sense of isolation from the shame of what you were just involved in. And the longer that we stay in a place of shame, the more aggressive our behavior is going to become. And so I think that is, Father Richard Rohr says, the pain that we do not transform, we transmit. Always someone else has to suffer because I don't know how to. And so I think that's so crucial for us as men to get, is if we have stories of unaddressed humiliation, places of powerlessness that have affected our life, we are going to transmit that pain onto others. And that, I think, is just the convergence of trauma stories, where you have men who have unaddressed trauma creating a demand that creates trauma in primarily, women, but also in other men that are trafficked and exploited. And to me, that's just the madness of the moment that we're in, is, unaddressed trauma compounds more trauma onto others. So I think that has to be the place to invite men into, is if you have unaddressed stories of humiliation or powerlessness, the appeal to something like porn is not just because it's a fantasy and it's pleasurable, but far more, porn is an issue of power. So if I come from a place of a lack of power in my life, that sets up the demand to kind of convert that trauma into a place of triumph and mastery, which is where the demand for porn really begins to get accentuated, because I don't want to feel powerless, and porn makes me feel deeply powerful. But if you're only trying to combat the issues of porn by telling men, don't do this, it's wrong, it's harmful to others, it's just not going to be effective until they really begin to address some of the trauma and heartache of their life.